Only nuclear energy can lift all humans out of poverty, protect the natural environment, and establish peace on Earth. There's just nothing else that can do that. I think nuclear power is the safest way to make reliable electricity. People say renewables are safe, but our biggest source of renewable electricity is hydro. And the worst energy accidents ever occurred is one that occurred in Banqiao, China, that killed 170,000 people after a dam collapsed. People say to me, is nuclear safe? And I'm always like, I'm not saying that nuclear is safe, because I don't think anything is safe, but it's the safest way to make electricity. The studies of the relative safety of different energy sources goes back to the 1960s, when nuclear was proposed as an alternative to coal, and when we knew that air pollution was deadly. The World Health Organization, which says 7 million air pollution deaths a year, it's not just that nuclear is the safest, it means that when you're using nuclear, you're actually saving lives. Nuclear plants don't put out air pollution, and so what we find is that nuclear power has to date saved 1.8 million lives by preventing the burning of fossil fuels. Do we really need this energy? We have so much other energy that we can use. The first thing you have to remember is that renewables just require so much more land, 17 to 35 times more land than nuclear. We're trying to replace all of Korea's nuclear electricity. You'd have to build 13,000 wind turbines, or put solar panels on 24 million roofs, or it would take 4,400 solar farms the size of Sinan. That doesn't mean that you couldn't clear-cut the forests and build solar farms. That raises some questions around, are you destroying the village in order to save it? I thought we were trying to save the environment. And it also turns out that South Korea is also not very sunny either. Solar just requires vastly larger quantities of materials, which means it requires much, much more mining. The energy in the environment is very simple. The more energy dense the fuel, the lower the environmental impact. So the more energy you can get out of a small amount of matter, the less matter, the less natural environment, the less natural resource you have to use. I got so sick of being asked about what about the nuclear waste. Solar panels create 300 times more waste than nuclear. It contains chromium, cadmium, lead, which are highly toxic metals. And people always say, well, the nuclear waste, though, it's going to be radioactive for, hundreds of thousands of years. I'm always like, well, chromium, cadmium, and lead are always going to be toxic. They're elements. They're not going anywhere. Everybody knows this. Coal and nuclear are the cheapest forms of electricity in Korea. It makes it then very easy to calculate how much it would cost to make a transition away from nuclear. Well, how much would it cost? Somewhere between $200 and $400 billion over 20 years. Richer countries than South Korea, like Germany and Japan, might be able to afford this. I'm not so sure South Korea can. As I've spent more time doing the research and the things I showed you about the impacts of renewables on the environment, I can no longer in good conscience be in favor of solar and wind. Hydroelectricity is different. Hydroelectricity is one of the main ways that poor countries emerge out of poverty. So I'm in favor of hydroelectricity for poor countries. In rich countries like the United States, as an environmentalist, I would like to take down the dams because I think wild rivers are very special and protect the habitat. And if you have sufficient nuclear power, you can replace all your hydroelectric dams. So then there's a question of, is it off-putting to people for me to criticize renewables? And I think to some extent it is. I think it's probably more politically palatable for me to say it's all good, solar is good, nuclear is good, wind is good, but I don't believe it anymore. I don't think the facts support it, and so I can't say it. I think that's it. Thank you guys very much for listening.